Okay, round two. So in question A, in the first one was the first one of your warm-up. In here you have a large starch molecule. That's what potatoes are made out of. They're very starchy. And then you have water molecules. So this is osmosis, where water fuses across the membrane. So you're looking for the high concentration going to the low concentration. So the best net movement, net just means like overall movement. If you look at A, it goes from high concentration of water, where water molecules are the only thing moving into the cell. So it moved from high to low, and A is correct. If you look at the other three, they're moving from, in this one, in B, they're both the molecules are moving in and out of the membrane, and that's not how it happens. There's no low concentration of water on the left side in order for that to happen. In C and D, same thing. So, and D, the water molecules would not move from a low to a high concentration. They only move from high to low. And then in C, the starch molecules are too big to fit through the membrane. Starch molecules are large molecules, and they don't fit through membranes very well. So the water flows in. That's why A is correct. All right, so B is a phospholipid bilayer. So if you look at your notes from yesterday, you have phospholipids have a plasma membrane that's semi-repellent to water. So this right here is what's going to help you answer that question. So you have a phospholipid layer. So it's phospholipids are this layer. They're made of phospholipids. Structure B is a protein gate. So it's how proteins and things fly in and out of the cell. We're going to talk about that today. And lastly, if you look at all of these concentrations, remember we talk about high to low concentration. So water, it's asking you which one will experience the cell losing water. That means in which scenario will the water flow outside of the cell? I'm sorry, from the inside of the cell to the outside. If you look at the first two, you have the water in the environment here is greater than the water in the cell. So that means it'll move from high to low into the cell. Situation 3, there's more water in the cell than there is outside of the cell, so the cell will lose water. And in situation 4, they're equal. So you have situation 4, all right, would be an isotonic one. This is situation 3, that'd be a hypertonic one. And then these two would be hypo. Tonic because the cell is gaining water. All right, any questions on that now? All right, once again, I apologize for that. Next time, if you think I've been gone for too long, throw a message up in the chat or something. I'm still getting used to this stuff too. All right, so cell permeability is where we're at. So you should be hearing your notes. So the permeability of a membrane is the rate with which diffusion happens across a membrane. All right, so permeability is the rate of passive diffusion through a membrane. We're going to talk about what this passive transport or diffusion is later. So this passive is important. Okay, so next up, we have the transport of molecules is important. All right, so larger molecules like sugars and starches, we just talked about that in the warm-up, and sometimes proteins diffuse through these things called protein channels. So this is what these big like blobs are that are in the middle of the bilayer. So you have, this is the phospholipid layer, and this is the phospholipid layer. You have these like gates that stand between it. All right, so this is like a gate. So they're called protein channels. So protein, those channels go in your notes. So active transport is the cell process that allows a molecule to move across the membrane from a lower to a high concentration. Now remember, we talked about everything always moves from high to low all the time. If you think about it, it's like rolling a ball down a hill. It goes from a high place to a low place. If you push a ball down a hill, it will roll by itself, and you don't need to do anything. It'll do it itself. But if you want the ball to go up the hill, you have to push it up the hill, which costs energy. You get tired by pushing that ball back up the hill. So this active transport requires energy to work because it's moving against the gradient. It's moving against the way things easily move in and out of the cell. Okay, so active transport is a process that allows molecules to move across membrane from a low to high concentration. The important thing here is that it requires energy. So what I want you to do on your notes is just highlight. Does this require energy to do? Click on true, go to the highlighter, and just highlight it. Yes, it does. True. So this is what your notes should look like. So if active transport requires energy and it's active, think about if you're active, you're running around, you're expending, you're wasting energy. Right? Passive transport's the opposite. It's kind of what we talked about earlier with the membranes. Things flow in and out of it easy. So with the warm-up question with the water and the starch and the potato, that's passive transport. It's moving from a high concentration to a low concentration. So passive transport is a process that allows molecules to move. So it's the same thing as this. Copy paste it. Move across membrane this is from high concentration to low concentration this time. Does not require energy. I'll highlight these so that they stand out more too, because that's important. So then here, you will highlight that as false, because passive transport, if you're passive, you're kind of like low energy, you don't really put up a fight much. All right. So if you're passive, you don't require energy to work. So the passive transport happens without energy, just on its own. Process does not require a molecule that allows molecules to move from high to low concentration. Like, remember, high to low is normal. So if you look on the Nearpod, I put up a little GIF. All right. So what this is this ATP is the energy. All right. It attaches to the gate, which is like a key that opens it up. So then it allows the hydrogen, in this case, which is the H, to fly through. So normally that blue chunk would not be able to get through the gate, but once the energy opens the gate, it can fit it through. All right. So think of it like the ATP is the key. When you stick a key in a gate and twist it, it opens the gate and allows you to go through. So like you wouldn't be able to squeeze. So like air can go through a gate. If you think about like a normal gate you have in your yard, air can go through like the holes in the fence. All right, but you cannot squeeze through it. You need a key to open the gate. The gate opens a large portion of the fence, which allows you to come through. All right, that's active transport right there. So ATP is the energy. It attaches to the proton gate, the protein gate. The protein gate opens and allows the larger molecule to come through. All right, cells and energy is the last bit. So we're going to talk about plants. All right, photosynthesis is a chemical reaction that takes place in chloroplasts of plant cells. All right, during this reaction, they change the light energy into carbohydrate energy, which is a sugar. So write this down. Okay. So where they occur is in the chloroplast. Okay, so this point on your notes, you should have the first three bits of the cells and energy in plants. So photosynthesis is a chemical reaction that takes place in the chloroplast of plant cells. Plants use light energy to make energy-rich molecules called carbohydrates they use for energy. Plants use light to produce this energy. Chloroplasts are where this occurs. I'm just kind of making sure you understand this is only in plants. Humans do not have chloroplasts. That would be awesome because then you would never need to eat food. So that's not how this works. Okay. Up next is chlorophyll. Okay, chlorophyll is the main pigment used in photosynthesis. So this is a pigment is a molecule that absorbs lights of some colors and reflects others. So if you were in my physical science class, you should remember, I hope, that some things absorb light and then they reflect out other colors. That's how things get their color. So if you're wearing a red shirt, your light, yeah, shirts, the particles that are in the dye of that shirt are absorbing all the other rays of light except red. It then reflects that red out to who's ever viewing it, and that makes your shirt red. So this is why most plants look green, is because they have chloroplasts, and it's absorbing all the rays of light except green, and then it reflects green back off the plant. Okay, so if you're following along, this is how your notes should look right now. So then finally, we're going to get into the animals, like animal cells. We use something called cellular respiration. Okay, cellular respiration is a chemical reaction that occurs in living things where we use oxygen and glucose to produce carbon dioxide, water, and energy. So you're using glucose, which is a sugar in your blood, and we use it to produce carbon dioxide, water, and energy. So this is why you have to take breaths to live. Because if you didn't, then this process can happen and your body starts to shut down. So this is why you have to breathe, to take in the oxygen, to burn the glucose you have stored in your body cells, like the fat cells, breaks down the glucose, and then that's why when you exhale a lot of carbon dioxide. All right? Because your body is breaking down that stuff and using it and then expelling the waste. So the energy is what's happening. So you actually do produce a little bit of water in that as well. Cells use oxygen and glucose all right. So during cellular respiration, this ATP is what the energy is made. All right, this takes place in the mitochondria. So remember how we called them the powerhouse of the cell? That's because this is where this is all happening at. So this happens in the mitochondria. So it's just the molecule that is made is called ATP. That's another blank. You got to fill in on your notes. And that's short for adenosine triphosphate. And some of the energy is released as heat as well. That's why when you exercise, you get warm. Your body gets warm. And then you sweat to cool yourself down. So when your muscles rub against each other, and you're moving in and out, so it's breaking down these glucose molecules and releasing a little bit of heat, which rises your body temperature. Okay, so when your body temperature goes up, that's the heat coming out of these chemical bonds that are being broken. Now, remember when we talked about homeostasis? Homeostasis is then your body goes, oh crap, I'm getting too warm. I better then release water through your sweat glands. And water is very good at capturing heat. So then you start sweating. And when you start sweating, your sweat will absorb the heat coming off your skin and then cool down your body inside. So that's why you sweat, is your body's trying to maintain homeostasis. It's trying to lower your body temperature. If you didn't sweat, you'd be in big trouble, because then your body heat would go out of control. And if your body gets too hot, you can start losing brain function. And then when you lose brain function, your body tends to not react well, and that can lead to death. So when people don't sweat, that's why heat stroke is so dangerous, is because they stop sweating. Then they can't cool down. So that is how your body works. And this is like the basics of it. Right? It's a good thing that this happens too, because we work together with the plants. So the plants produce oxygen. They have a byproduct that's oxygen. Guess what? We need oxygen. So we breathe it in and we breathe out carbon dioxide. Guess what the plants need? Carbon dioxide. And then sunlight. So we are in a big cycle with the plants where we use the carbohydrates from them, and then oxygen as well, to fuel energy in us. And then when we breathe out carbon dioxide and water, guess what? Plants need carbon dioxide and water to function, and they just need a little bit of sunlight. So then they start producing more. And then it's a cycle that works out really well. And that's why they get worried when the rainforests start losing a lot of rainforests, is because we're taking away things that make oxygen for us to breathe. All right, trees are important. They produce oxygen for you to breathe. That's why people get upset when we start taking out a lot of trees, is because we start whittling down the amount of oxygen available on the planet. Now, it's not like we're going to run out and die, but it will start having other effects on us. And it's better to have more trees around producing more oxygen for us than it would be if we cut them all down. Okay. All right. So that kind of takes us through the end. I have a video and I had a question for you guys, but since I screwed up and forgot to press mute to take myself off of mute, I kind of wasted that time. So we're going to end here. Your notes should be complete like this. So you should have all this filled in. All right, then you go to Schoology and submit this document. Do not share it with me in Google Docs. Do not share it with me in Google Docs. Go to Schoology, open up your document, and then hit submit in the top corner. So you share with me in Google Docs, it gets lost because I have a lot of other teachers that are sharing things with me. I am creating and sharing things for my other classes, for the soccer program. I'm doing a lot of stuff with that, so I could accidentally get it lost in my Google Drive because you shared it with me instead of submitted it. If you submit it, Schoology holds on to it and it keeps it in an organized place where I can quickly grade it. So please make sure you are submitting on Schoology only. There should be a link in Schoology if you missed some of the Nearpod notes, or you need to go back and look over a few slides. The whole presentation in its entirety is in that link. So if you need to go back and fill anything in, check there. And so that's all I have for you today. Tomorrow will be a work day where we will be, you'll have majority of time to work on the assignment I'll give you, and I'll give that to you when you come to class tomorrow, okay? So if you have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat or stick around. Again, I apologize for that muting error today. If not, you are free to go, and I'll see you tomorrow.